experts that will intervene in this very interesting panel, and the representatives of 3 European regions that will present their good practices regarding sustainable food policies. So welcome Ricard Ramon Isumoy, Deputy Head of the Unit, the C1 Policy Perspective at the Directorate-General for Agriculture and Rural Development in the European Commission. Welcome also to Nick Jacobs, Director at the International Panel of Experts on Sustainable Food Systems, also known as IPES Food. Then also I would like to welcome Irene Lijgren, Chair of the EEAC Task Force on Food Security from the Örebro region in Sweden. Also, we have to welcome Ida Karimli, first Vice President of the Environmental Committee of the region Västra Götaland in Sweden. And finally, I would like to welcome Anna Castillejo, responsible for technical advice at the Directorate-General of Industries and Agri-Food Quality at the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Food in the Catalan government. Finally, I'm pleased to give the floor to Mr. Albert Castellanos, Secretary General of the Ministry of the Vice-Presidency and of Economy and Finance in the Catalan government, and also the AER Vice President for Sustainability. Albert, the floor is yours. Albert, I think you are muted.
The host is muting me. Now?
Yeah. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. So, welcome everyone to this second webinar on the European Green Deal, focused on the farm to fork strategy. Just to give you a little bit of perspective, of temporal perspective, on December 11th, which is last week, actually, the first anniversary marked for the launch of the European Green Deal by the European Commission. At that time, that was December 2019, before the pandemics, AER welcomed the adoption of the EU Green Deal, a roadmap to guide the European Union, that is us, towards a just and inclusive transition and to a sustainable Europe, and celebrated the political goal to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. On the other hand, the Assembly, AER, also stressed that the success of this roadmap required a firm multi-level and multi-stakeholder approach. We think that the vision of the regions, our vision, our knowledge, our good practices, and especially the competences that the AER members we are holding, we think that were valuable for reaching these ambitious goals. We thought that on December 2019, and those messages that we were thinking in 2019 remain fully valid to us. European Green Deal, we are very sure that will play a strategic role supporting European regions recovering from COVID-19. Actually, the new generation program initiatives are fully committed with the European Green Deal, and that's probably the most valuable proof that the European Green Deal will play a major role in the recovery of the European regions. Probably this is why AER, the Assembly, on September 14, this is a little bit more than 3 months ago, launched AER webinar series on the European Green Deal in collaboration with the Advising Council for Sustainable Development of the Catalan government, which the directorates are now called, as many of you already know. The first session was a general session. Basically, the session was titled "The European Union Green Deal: Challenge and Opportunities in Times of COVID." And we're trying to make understand to all the regions, to different perspectives, which was the role of the regions on the implementation on this European commitment. Today, in this second seminar, we'll focus on a transformative agenda of this European Green Deal, which is called Farm to Fork, but that basically will focus the debate today. The Farm to Fork communication, which basically was presented the 20th of May this year, we can say that is a comprehensive strategy. That's why most of the times we call it Farm to Fork strategy, but it's actually a communication that has as a main objectives to become the European food system sustainable, basically facing the challenge of the food systems of the whole value chain, from producers to consumers. And that's why we call it From Farm to Fork. It's a very visual way to make it understand. We really think that concerning sustainable food systems, regions and local actions matters a lot. And that's why AER, on the 5th December 2019, some months before that the European Commission presented Farm to Fork communication, adopted a food security position paper. I am sure that 𝐀𝐫𝐧𝐚𝐿, chair of the AER Task Force on Food Security, will make an excellent presentation. We'll have the chance to explain which was the position of AER regarding food security and basically what is our position calling for a food policy in the European Union. The aim of these sessions is to debate on the achievements and remaining challenge of the Farm to Fork communications, the role that the regions can have in order to achieve this challenge, and basically because we are convinced that regions will play a major role guaranteeing a full implementation of this strategy presented some months ago. I'm sure, knowing some of the speakers and the attendants as well, that it will be a very inspiring and fruitful session. Thank you, all of you, to be here, and I hope that the time you spend here will be worthwhile. The floor is yours again, Arnaud.
Thank you, Albert. And now to highlight the leadership of regional governments into co-creation together with civil society of sustainable food systems, we have the honor to share with you a video message by Teresa Jordà, the Minister for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Food, the Catalan government, who welcomes all the participants and attendees to this webinar. The Minister will address it to you in Catalan with English subtitles, and well, it's a nice opportunity to listen this beautiful language that, although it's not official in the European Union, is spoken by 10 million people. So let's go to the video message.
Disculpar-me per no poder ser en directe amb totes i amb tots vosaltres, però no volia deixar passar l'oportunitat de dirigir-vos unes paraules. Agrair, en primer lloc, a l'Assemblea de Regions d'Europa i, òbviament, també al CATS, la invitació a aquest webinar dedicat a l'estratègia Farm to Fork i per oferir-nos l'oportunitat de poder explicar les diferents polítiques que estem fent des del Departament d'Agricultura, Ramaderia, Pesca i Alimentació de la Generalitat del país, el departament que tinc l'honor de representar i encapçalar. Vull començar per posar en valor que la voluntat d'aquest departament no és cap altra que la de seguir avançant, que la de seguir caminant cap a un sistema alimentari ambientalment més sostenible, econòmicament viable i socialment just. Polítiques que estan totalment alineades amb el Green Deal, amb el Pacte Verd i alhora també amb l'estratègia Farm to Fork del camp a la taula de la Comissió Europea. En aquest sentit, la visió d'aquest departament és clara. Nosaltres treballem i volem que el sistema agroalimentari català sigui sostenible, sigui també alhora un sistema agroalimentari transformador i basat en la bioeconomia, que sigui amatent a la mitigació i adaptació a l'emergència climàtica i que preservi i restableixi els recursos sobre els quals depèn aquest sistema alimentari. També volem que sigui dinàmic, i no només dinàmic, sinó que també generi valor. Volem, en definitiva, un sistema agroalimentari propi i arrelat al territori, que garanteixi la cohesió territorial i l'arrelament de la població a les zones rurals del nostre país i també alhora que reforci l'autoestima alimentària de Catalunya. Però aquest sistema agroalimentari que volem que sigui tantes coses, és necessari que sigui just, que sigui equitatiu i que sigui socialment sostenible, però també accessible per a tothom, amb una distribució de valor justa, amb una distribució de valor equitativa entre tots els agents de la cadena de valor alimentària, que sigui, en definitiva, un sistema agroalimentari que promogui la salut del sòl, la salut de l'aire, de l'aigua, de les plantes, dels animals, del mar i, sobretot, dels ciutadans i ciutadanes. Aquest és el compromís ferm d'aquest departament. I, precisament per això, des de Catalunya ja fa temps que treballem en aquesta direcció. Abans que la Comissió Europea publiqués, de fet, l'estratègia del camp a la taula, nosaltres ja treballàvem amb el Consell Català de l'Alimentació. Per què? Doncs per elaborar una cosa que no existeix a Catalunya, que és el Pla Estratègic de l'Alimentació de Catalunya, el que coneixem com el PEAC, una eina de govern per definir l'estratègia alimentària del país pels propers 5 anys, per l'any 2021 a l'any 2026, i que s'aprovarà finalment el proper 14 de desembre i que ens ha de servir, si em permeteu, per assentar les bases justament del Pacte Nacional de la Política Alimentària d'aquest país. El PEAC, aquest Pla Estratègic per a l'Alimentació de Catalunya, no podria ser d'una altra manera. Ha estat elaborat amb una visió sistèmica on absolutament totes les iniciatives i actuacions són contemplades a partir de la seva multisectorialitat i també de la seva transversalitat, perquè aquí hi ha molts agents concernits. El reconeixement explícit de la relació entre el sistema de producció, de comercialització i de consum dels aliments amb la salut, amb el medi ambient i també amb la conscienciació dels consumidors, entre molts altres àmbits. És clau. És clau per articular actuacions que donin resposta de manera integral als reptes i a les demandes actuals de la societat. Així doncs, aquest pla estratègic contempla una sèrie de fites que es concreten en 27 mesures, que, entre d'altres, faciliten l'accés a opcions saludables amb patrons alimentaris, redueixen les pèrdues i el malbaratament alimentari, molt important, i milloren també la informació disponible sobre aliments saludables i sostenibles mitjançant l'etiquetatge. I en aquest sentit també m'agradaria destacar la nova llei de prevenció de pèrdues i malbaratament alimentari, una llei pionera que ofereix eines per prevenir les pèrdues i el malbaratament agroalimentari i augmentar l'aprofitament dels aliments al llarg de tota la cadena alimentària, des de la producció primària. Això no havia passat a Europa, no hi ha cap llei que ho faci agrupant tota la cadena, des de la producció primària fins al consumidor final. I, per últim, no voldria deixar de mencionar els fons europeus, els fons europeus de recuperació per la Covid-19, que ens ofereixen també una oportunitat per accelerar, per posar la sisena en la transformació que fa anys hem començat i que ens permetrà fer un salt endavant per poder donar resposta als reptes mencionats anteriorment i així també avançar cap a un sistema alimentari més robust, més sostenible i, òbviament, més resilient. Com he dit moltes vegades, el nostre país ens demana respostes, respostes a reptes globals i respostes molt concretes a grans reptes globals, no? Reptes que afecten el nostre sector però que afecten també a la societat en general. I la voluntat d'aquest departament i del seu equip és entomar-les, com no pot ser d'altra manera, entomar-les conjuntament només des de la governança republicana, és com ho entenem nosaltres, només plegats, concernits en tot allò que volem aconseguir, amb empatia i, evidentment, també posant per davant totes aquestes sinergies que donaran respostes, sens dubte, les respostes necessàries. I no m'allargo més. A continuació, a la secció que vindrà després, tindrem l'oportunitat de poder aprofundir en les iniciatives mencionades i respondre també a totes les vostres qüestions. Moltes gràcies a totes i a tots. Desitjo que aquest webinar sigui del tot profitós. De fet, no tinc cap dubte que ho serà, i reiterar una vegada més les meves felicitacions als organitzadors, perquè de ben segur fer-ho no és gens fàcil. Una abraçada a totes i a tots i bona jornada. Molt bon dia.
Thank you, Minister, for your speech. And I don't know if it's easy or not, but it's our responsibility to organize this kind of reflections, these joint reflections, in order to contribute to a more sustainable Europe. And let's start with the first part of this session, which is this expert panel on how to achieve food sustainability in the European Union through this farm to fork strategy, let's say F2F strategy. And we will start with the views of Ricard Ramon i Samoy, Deputy Head of the Unit at the Directorate-General for Agriculture and Rural Development in the European Commission. So thank you again, Ricard, for being with us. And you know that let's start with the questions. You know that the farm to fork communication states that this strategy is at the heart of the Green Deal. And why is food system so important to the green and digital transition that the Green Deal is aiming for? And you know, I have just mentioned that you work at the European Commission. How do you think that the common agricultural policy will be able to deliver the ambitious goals that the strategy sets? And finally, which are, under your point of view, the most positive achievement of this strategy? Ricard, you know, 3 questions in 10 minutes. It's a challenge, but the floor is yours.
Yes, good afternoon to everybody. Honorable Vice President and Secretary General, Director also of the CATS, and all colleagues and representatives from regions. First of all, it's an honor on behalf of the European Commission to be here with you today and to listen to you and to have this exchange of views on something as important as the future of the European food system. We are in a very crucial moment in Europe, and the crisis we experienced in the last months and that we are still experiencing has only reinforced the need and the urgency to react and to act. So it has already been said before. I think that it has already been mentioned by Mr. Castellanos and the previous interventions. The real importance of the European Green Deal, which was set in fact 1 year ago by the European Commission as the real growth strategy that will organize all our economy, our organization in Europe in the next decade. The Green Deal is a strategy which covers everything and touches everything, because we can only cope with the big challenges on sustainability if we tackle every single piece of the whole puzzle of the whole economy. I mean, the European Green Deal, it involves really changes in the industry, in the transport, in the energy, in the food, and in the buildings, everything. We talk about a transformative change. And we talk about making a change in a way that really we cannot go backwards, because we cannot afford to go backwards. In this debate, food systems are at the center of the debate. I usually put the example that I already experienced several changes of commission. And 5 years ago, when there was the new commission with Commissioner Juncker, the focus was on growth and jobs. The sustainability debate was not at the center. And at that moment, people only talk about growth and jobs after another economic crisis, and the agriculture, food were not in the political agenda of the core of the debate. Now, having the Green Deal at the center of the European agenda, agricultural, food are at the center of the European debate. In fact, today we just had, 2 hours ago, a speech by President van der Leyen on the importance of agriculture and the importance of food system as really a cornerstone for Europe to achieve the ambition of the Green Deal. If we want to get this climate neutrality by 2050, if we want to really advance substantially towards a clean economy, towards really an environmental sustainable project for Europe and for the world, we need to change the way we produce food, the way we transform it, and the overall, all the different variables which concern the food system. This is at the core of the Farm to Fork strategy. You asked me many questions, which I will try to reply in a few minutes, but I usually say that this strategy is 3 things. The first, it's a roadmap, as somebody has said it before. It's a roadmap, it's a strategy, as the name indicates, of several actions which will guide us in the next years at European level. As somebody said before, a thing like that cannot be done in an independent way by one actor of the chain. So everybody needs to move and needs to act into the same direction. This is why it was important, first of all, for the European Commission to set very clear roadmap. This strategy includes 27 actions. You can see in the annex, 27 specific actions, which are specific legal proposals concerning pesticides, climate action, fertilization, packaging, labeling, etc., etc. 27 specific actions which we are already putting into place. But a very important thing is that these 27 actions are accompanied also by what we call the targets. And I think this is very important also to put here into the debate today, that for the first time, Europe set quantified targets at EU level. What does this mean? That we have 6 targets, 6 ambitions, which are elements which are not new, are elements where we already were working. But now we have really a goal at EU level. So organic farming as a sustainable way of producing our food, we want to encourage this production model. And but organic farming today, it's at the 8% of the surface of Europe. Today, 8% of the agricultural surface of Europe, it's done under organic production systems, and we want to advance towards a 25%. This is a big ambition, because we want by 2030, 25%, 1/4 of the surface of Europe to be done to be managed under organic methods. Like this, we have several other goals. We want to reduce by 50% the use of pesticides. We need to reduce the antibiotics. We need to reduce also the use of the fertilizers. We need also to have landscape features across the land in Europe. We also need connectivity. Somebody mentioned rural areas. We need 100% of rural areas connected, because without connectivity, without access to the new technologies, we cannot cope with that. So we have all these goals which are setting these aspirations. There is a debate. You need to be aware there is a debate at political level about the role and the legal power of these targets. These targets are not binding, are political goals. And are political goals because we want everybody, Europe, regions, member states, local governments, actors, stakeholders, farmers, industries, to all move into this direction. But the very important thing is that the Farm to Fork strategy, it's 2 other things. Another is also a global strategy. And I would like to insist on that, because the global challenges are so relevant that even if we change our patterns, if we change our attitudes, but the rest of the world don't do it, then the impact will be limited. This is why the Farm to Fork strategy, for the first time, sets also an ambitious international agenda for Europe also to expand our standards to the rest of the world. This is really crucial. And I can tell you in my field, in agriculture, there is a very high risk of leakage. We can be very sustainable. We can be very change our production models, but this can lead only just to an externalization and the leakage to producing to the rest of the world. We can maybe produce less meat, or we can produce in a more sustainable way, but then we are going to import. If we are not able to change also our consumption patterns, we are going to maybe increase the production in other corners of the world, in production methods, by the way, worse than ours. This is why it's very important, really, that we expand, and we are able to expand our production models. I'm sure that colleagues, I see here there is in the debate, there is Mr. Jacobs from IPS, which is a very important think tank in this domain, and who I'm sure is going to also talk about this issue. But then there is a third element of the farm to fork, and it's that we need to act comprehensively, as I said before, from the farm to fork. This means that we need to act really to every single step of the chain. I mentioned these targets on the production methods, which affect mainly the farmers, mainly the way that we produce the food and the farmers produce the food. And we need to accompany this transition of the farmers with a lot of resources, which come from the Common Agricultural Policy. But this change will not happen if the rest of the chain does not act, and in particular, if consumers don't change. And here I would like to insist also in this debate today on the key role of consumers, of citizens, of the population, really as the ones who really need to participate into the project. And this is where, in fact, I think that actors, local and regional actors, play a very important role in really making this linkage between consumers and producers, which is so important and so needed in this project. The regions, you have the chance, regions, local governments, you can really help us in really making, do the proper conciliation between all these different steps which happen. There are cases, I mean, for example, I mean, I think in Catalonia, you are a very good example. I mean, you are a big region which produces a lot and at the same time consumes a lot. And in a region where you have producers and you have consumers, so the local government, regional governments are in a very good position, really, to match that in an appropriate way. And these are elements where it is really important that that the organizations, the institutions which are closer to the citizens, do the appropriate steps ahead. So having said these three elements of the farm to fork, then, and I will finish my 10 minutes, the role of the CAP here. The CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy, continues to be one of the stronger policies at EU level concerning funding, concerning money. People usually think that the CAP is a lot of money. It is indeed a lot of money, but it is a lot of money because it's the only policy which is done at EU level. And so it's the only policy where there are no national and regional budgets. This Common Agricultural Policy, now we have the chance, and that's good news. In fact, in the last month, we managed to really close the funding for the next period, 2021-2027, and we are going to have more than 380 billion to support this transition. This CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy, will be greener, will be much more sustainable, and will really accompany this process. This is not yet fully settled. There are still ongoing discussions between the European Parliament and the Council of Ministers. Now we are in what we call in Brussels the trialogues. So discussions between Commission, Parliament, and Council, and we hope that next spring all the details of the CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy, will be settled, and in particular with some instruments. We have an instrument, we call it the eco schemes, which is a new support, a new aid for farmers to really engage in this transition, in this transformation. And here I would like to close with a final remark, which is that in order to implement this new CAP, we have a new instrument, new governance, which we call the CAP strategic plans. These are 27 plans that will be drafted, organized at the level of each member state, and which will, of course, incorporate also the regions and all the different competent authorities. These national strategic plans will be the main tool also to tailor, to adapt the reality of the future CAP to each local reality. In that context, the Commission is really looking very carefully the works which are being done by different member states, and we are really committed really to guarantee that each of these plans really it's up to, it's fit for purpose in order to advance into the sustainability. For this reason, this week, in the next 2 days, that's the big news. On Friday, the Commission is going to publish a very important bunch of documents, which are the 27 recommendations, the 27 documents, where we are going to say to each of the member states, we are going to develop an analysis, we're going to publish that, an analysis, and an examination of where each member state states in the different indicators, in the different targets, and we are going to provide these recommendations to really foster and really encourage member states to move into this direction. This will happen this Friday, and I will really encourage you, all the regions present here, also to follow this process and to really be active in this process of the CAP plans, which will keep us quite busy in the next year. So thank you very much.
Thank you to you, Ricardo. You know, it's extraordinary to have a brilliant summary of the Farm to Fork strategy and the CAP in 10 minutes. So thank you. I think you made the point. Then, just before going to 𝐀𝐫𝐧𝐚𝐿, I would like to remind you that to all attendees that you can also propose us your questions via chat. You have a chat here in Zoom. So if you have some questions, please, we are going to collect all of them. And now it's time to go to a second presentation. It will be presented by 𝐁𝐫𝐧𝐚𝐿, the director of the International Panel of Experts on Sustainable Food Systems, also known as IPES Food. It's a very important institution. We discovered IPES when we prepare our report, Feeding on Future, on the future of sustainable food systems in Europe, and we learned a lot from IPES Food. So thank you, Nick, for being here. And Nick, you know, in May 2018, after a participatory process, IPES Food published a report towards a common food policy for the EU. And 2 years later, if I'm not wrong, the European Commission, it's correct, the European Commission presented this comprehensive strategy towards sustainable food systems. What do you think about it? What are the achievements of this strategy and the remaining challenges from your perspective? So the floor is yours, Nick.
Thanks very much, Arnau. Can I check that you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. So my screen, a screen should be shared shortly with my presentation. So as mentioned, I represent IPES Food. This is just briefly to introduce the organization. It's a panel with 25 experts from a number of different countries around the world, and it brings together agronomists, sociologists, ecologists, and people from a range of different disciplines, as well as people from social movements and NGOs, to really have all of that expertise in the room as we try to identify a pathway towards sustainable food systems in Europe and globally. And you know, we've heard already from Arnau that IPES Food has actually worked on this topic a lot. So when the Farm to Fork strategy was introduced by the European Commission this year, we at IPES Food were very interested and very happy to see the EU moving in this direction. And if we could move forward to the third slide, please. Thank you. So the project that was mentioned is towards a common food policy for the EU, and actually over a 3-year period from 2016 to 2019, IPES Food worked together with around 400 different actors from the food system, including NGOs, social movements, farmers groups, and even policymakers at local and regional level. And through a series of roundtable meetings, we co-developed a vision for a common food policy, an overarching EU food policy. And we came to a shared vision and also to a number of very concrete proposals. Ricardo mentioned the 27 actions in the Farm to Fork strategy. We came up with 84. So there are things to be done. And we were looking really at short, medium, and long term, and looking at a whole range of policies at EU level and national level that need to be reformed and realigned to build sustainable food systems in Europe. And I don't expect that you can read many of those proposals in the charts. You're right. I would invite you to consult the report, and I think the links will be provided later. One of the key things we did was to identify 5 key objectives for European food systems that a common food policy would have to meet. And those are listed here. So that's access to land, water, and healthy soils, climate resilient, healthy agroecosystems, delivering sufficient, healthy, and sustainable diets for all, building fairer, shorter, and cleaner supply chains, and finally, the external dimension, putting trade in the service of sustainable development. And as you can see, these objectives are really a set of transitions that have to happen in parallel if we're going to get to sustainable food systems in Europe. And we thought it was essential to identify that direction that we need to go in. All of these objectives are directional. And to achieve any of these, you really need a cluster of different actions. You need to be looking across multiple policy areas at multiple levels to get there. And that's the key thing that's the key message we wanted to get across. So we want to start with these objectives and then look at policies like the Common Agricultural Policy, like the EU's trade policy or food safety policy, and think, how do they need to change in order to meet these objectives that we've agreed for the whole food system? And just to be clear, there's a final ingredient. The governance is absolutely essential. And there's a 6th kind of chart cluster with a different color there in the chart. And we have several proposals for the EU's governance architecture itself, including a call for there to be a vice president for sustainable food systems within the European Commission. So someone whose job it is to deliver a food policy and to make sure the other sectoral policies are all pushing in this direction. So if we could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So when the Farm to Fork strategy emerged, we were obviously very happy because this really is a step in the right direction towards a comprehensive food policy. And before moving to the challenges, I think it's fair to note, the most promising elements of this, and there are several. And one of those is, this does give us a chance to change the way we make decisions and we set priorities in the European food system. And I think you see that already in the process of developing the Farm to Fork strategy. You've had different departments of the European Commission working together in cross-sectoral fashion. DG Santé, DG Environment really weighing in on equal footing with DG Agriculture on these questions. And that's very different to how the CAP reform processes have gone in the past. And we now see the European Parliament debating the Farm to Fork strategy and the Environment and Agri committees working together. So that in itself is quite revolutionary. Secondly, this Farm to Fork strategy does map out some long-term visions and objectives for the food system. We don't think it goes quite far enough, and I'll mention that in a moment, but it's definitely a step in that direction. And as a result of this more democratic process, we do see objectives that better reflect the needs and interests of society as a whole, including targets for cutting pesticides, reducing antibiotics, increasing organic. But several challenges remain, and these challenges, they involve the initial vision from the European Commission, but also the process of getting a Farm to Fork strategy in place and making sure that it has teeth. So if we could move to the first challenge. It's really to make policies truly coherent. And clearly the ambition is there in the Farm to Fork strategy, but I think it's worth noting how big a challenge this is and the extent to which the current policies affecting the EU food system are really not well aligned with each other at present. And to give you some examples, within the Common Agricultural Policy, there are premiums for young farmers to get them onto the land. At the same time, we have a model of farm subsidies that actually drives up land prices and makes it very hard for new entrants to come into the sector. To give another example, there are strict environmental standards in the CAP, and the Farm to Fork strategy would go further in that direction. But the advisory services that farmers would need in order to deliver more sustainable production systems are just simply not there. They've either been defunded, privatized, or not offering the kind of advice that farmers need. Another example is the climate targets, which are ambitious, and through the Farm to Fork strategy, we're redoubling the call for farmers to be leaders in climate mitigation and adaptation. But year by year, we're still negotiating free trade agreements or FTAs, in which one of the explicit goals is to boost exports of EU meat and dairy production, which are some of the highest emitting sectors in terms of greenhouse gases. Many other examples. I'll skip to the final example there is just to say that, you know, these are not just conflicts between, sorry, if we could go back to the slide on challenge 1, thank you. The examples, most of these examples are conflicts between different policy areas, but there are also conflicts and really synergies that are missed between the different levels of governance, so EU, national, regional, and local. And within the EU policies, of course, there are tools that can support local food system initiatives regarding public procurement, short supply chains, but there's insufficient funding for these tools. And there's, I think, not enough information flowing between the different levels, and certainly insufficient understanding at the local level of what flexibilities there are to put kind of local green procurement schemes in place, for example, and certainly not enough information flowing back up to EU level to really harness the positive experiences going on at local and regional level in building sustainable food systems. So if we could move forward to the next slide. The next challenge I wanted to highlight is the need to identify clear transition pathways. And I mentioned this already in recapping what IPES Food proposed within the Common Food Policy. It's worth noting the severity of the challenges we're facing in terms of climate change, biodiversity, farmers going out of business, the obesity and public health crises we face. We really need a fundamental change in our food systems, and a food policy or farm to fork strategy is the way to go there. But we're currently missing an opportunity to send a very clear signal to farmers, to the food industry, and to member states about how fundamental that transition needs to be. And at IPES Food, we believe we do need a shift towards agroecological systems, organic and beyond, really based on diversity and really redesigning farming systems around different principles. But if you're going to get there, you need a number of different tools to be provided. You need support within agricultural policy. You need different advisory services. You need different market opportunities for farmers. And you need to be sure that farmers are not going to be undercut by produce coming in. If we come from the perspective of healthy diets, you need to look at urban planning, licensing, to see really, you know, is the healthy option the easiest one for people living in specific neighborhoods? You need to look at fiscal incentives to make sure that healthier foods, sustainable foods are affordable. And you need marketing restrictions on junk food. So all of these things really need to happen together. And the farm to fork strategy is an opportunity to send a clear message that those are the directions we're going in, and these are the support tools that you have. The current approach is somewhat à la carte, where you have mentions of all of these different things, but you also have mentions of gene editing and precision agriculture and a number of different tools and different modes of transitioning. And we think there needs to be a clearer signal on the direction of travel. So if we could move forward to the third challenge, thank you. Building democratic governance. As I said already, this is absolutely essential as a building block. We need to change the way that we make policies and set priorities. And there are still questions, I think, here. There are positive signals, but we need to know how and through what mechanisms the current cross-sectoral work that has led to the farm to fork communication from the Commission, how will that be maintained through the implementation of this policy? How are we going to connect citizens into this process? And how are we going to learn from the experiences at local level of having multi-stakeholder food policy councils, for example? And one proposal that we've put forward and the Economic and Social Committee has also put forward is to have an EU food policy council that actually replicates that kind of multi-stakeholder approach. And finally, the interaction between the farm to fork strategy and CAP reforms is absolutely crucial. Ricard has mentioned this already. I'm perhaps a bit more skeptical about the CAP reforms that are currently being agreed in the trialogues. And we're seeing really insufficient action on moving towards a greener CAP. And that does raise questions. And I think there's been independent analysis suggesting that these CAP reforms are not going to meet the ambitions of the farm to fork strategy and the Green Deal. And that's a huge missed opportunity, because the farm to fork strategy really is a chance to shape policies like the CAP and make them fit the objectives of an EU food system. But instead, what we're seeing is a CAP that will be in place for years, dispensing lots of money. And the CAP itself will end up shaping and actually limiting what the farm to fork strategy can achieve. if there's not some urgent actions to really correct that and to ensure that member states do put comprehensive sustainable policies in place. And just a final note, to thank the organizers, and also to say that we at IPES Food see an absolutely crucial role for regions in all of this, in advocating for sustainable food systems via the Farm to Fork strategy, sharing the experiences of what has been achieved at a regional level on sustainable food policies. And to note that IPES Food is launching the Glasgow Food and Climate Declaration, so 1 year now to COP26. This is a declaration that really underlines all the great things that are being done by cities, regions, and subnational governments in using food policy as a tool to address climate change. And we're hoping through this to really make a call to action at COP26 to national governments to step up on food policy. So look forward to being in touch with many of you on that, and thanks for your time.
Thanks to you, Nick. I think I've learned a lot. I mean, we have this. So thank you to you and to IPES to think that, to consider that regions and cities have this role in boosting this transition to more sustainable food systems. The Assembly and also our Council stand on this point. We consider this, so it's good to know that a rigorous and a prestigious organization like yours also considers this. Thank you also for sharing your views and these three challenges that I hope that will be also highlighted or stressed by our the next presentations. I mean, when you talk about the importance of making policies truly coherent at the European level, but it's also at the regional level, the importance of identifying a clear transition pathways, it's also a key point, and then building democratic governance. And governance is also a crucial point. So now we'll try to see how regions are dealing with this, and this is why I would like to invite the three next panelists that will present some good practices from the European regions that are front runners towards sustainable food policies. And this is why I am very pleased to invite to this virtual stage to 𝐒ℐ𝐻𝐿, the chair of the Assembly, the AER Task Force on Food Security. She represents the Örebro region in Sweden. I would also like to invite also to come to the stage, this virtual stage, to Ida Karimli, first Vice President of the Environmental Committee of the region Västra Götaland in Sweden, West Sweden, and finally Anna Kesselby from the Catalan Ministry for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Food. So we will start with 𝐒ℐ𝐻𝐿. 𝐒ℐ𝐻𝐿, the floor is yours. Hello, 𝐒ℐ𝐻𝐿. Well, are you here?
Well, thank you. Now I'm here. It wasn't possible for me to unmute the speaker. You had to do it from your side. But now I'm here. Thank you. Yes, thank you. In a cross-cutting approach where food intersects with sustainability, health and well-being, culinary arts and meal ecology, the region of Örebro County has found its innovative edge. An edge that drives the society's change as well as strengthen the competitiveness of our companies. And here you see my start. My name is 𝐒ℐ𝐻𝐿, and as you said, I'm a county commissioner in region Örebro County, situated in the heart of Sweden. We consider ourselves to be in the front line of food innovation, specialized in nutrition. I'm also the task force leader for food security in the EEAC network. The Örebro region has top-level research in medicine and health, as well as in culinary arts at the Örebro University. This, in combination with an agricultural sector and thriving food producing sector led by large exporting firms on the global market, the Örebro region aims to be a European leader in food, health and sustainability. A field that will have great future impact on several societal challenges addressed by the Green Deal. Food, health and sustainability, that's our smart specialization. One of the two priorities of smart specialization together with Örebro University is food, health and sustainability. Knowledge creation in this area contributes to innovation in the food industry as such, and developing nutrition with benefits for a wider society perspective through public means. For that reason, Region Örebro County is part of a large consortium recently awarded by Formas, a government research council for sustainable development. The consortium was recently awarded one of the 4 national centers for sustainability and competitiveness in the food chain. The center carries out research and initiate testbed activities on plant-based proteins for health and well-being. One of the expected results is to increase the quality of life by bringing together researchers from different fields and connect them to innovative sustainable food businesses in order. In addition, in Örebro region, we add the sensory experience to nutrition and gut-brain interaction in order to increase the experience of sustainability and healthy food in an exciting multidisciplinary approach. A systematic approach from farm to fork, from business to development to social societal responsibility. The region of Örebro County also work with a strategic approach in a broader sense with regions to the regional food chain, from production to distribution. We are implementing a 5-year strategy with high ambitions of getting companies, our innovation system, our producers and consumers aligned towards the idea of a functional, healthy and sustainable food chain. In this ambition, we consider the whole value chain, including, for example, the distribution chain. In this aspect, the broadness of our region's capacities in areas such as logistics and new technology, such as artificial intelligence, encourage development in the field. We believe that our profile, where strong research benefits the surrounding society from an innovative, competitive and societal perspective, gives us a central role to play in addressing future challenges in this very exciting field. Region Örebro County carries a political responsibility in coordinating and accelerating regional development, and from that perspective, we want to accelerate capabilities to transform our region. In order to further strengthen the political arena, we are engaged in a task force for food security in AR. Already 3 years ago, we called upon the European Commission to develop a clear food strategy for future Europe, including motivating legislation, funding and effecting organization on sustainable agriculture, food production, innovation, food loss and waste, consumption and procurement as a tool to strengthen local and regional communities. Therefore, I am very pleased to follow the progress of this important area at the EU level. Furthermore, we stress that a holistic approach is needed, as well as vertical approach from local, regional, national and international level for promoting more efficient and important bioeconomy in Europe by multi-level governance. We as regions have knowledge of this area and will also be the main level of implementation. Therefore, as I said, I'm glad to be able to be part of the work with development and sustainable food policy in EU in accordance with the Green Deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you for your experience. And let me add something. If you go to the chat, you are going to find the AER position on food security that was mentioned by Irene. I invite you to take a look to this document, and also to the other documents that are there that Gisela from the Assembly has just added. So now it's time for also we are in Sweden, and we are going to listen to 𝐀𝐫𝐧𝐚𝐮 from Västra Götaland. So Ida, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let's see if I'm able to share my screen with you. So you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, great, thank you. First of all, I would like to start by thanking you for the opportunity to participate and share with you our experiences at this important webinar. My name is 𝐀𝐫𝐧𝐚𝐮, and I'm the first Vice President of the Environment Committee of Region Västra Götaland. Our approach to long-term sustainable food supply is based on our commission to promote regional development and our residents' health. Västra Götaland is characterized by a strong food and agriculture sector, and the region has naturally favorable conditions for agriculture, gardening, fishing, and maritime food production. The region of Västra Götaland has invested in regional development of the food sector for almost 20 years now. We have come to the conclusion that the region can play a vital role in initiating cooperations. Universities, institutions, etc. are vital for the transition of the food system, but it is also necessary to promote business development. Regional funding needs to be combined with resources from a national as well as the EU level. Recently, the government allocated almost 20 million euros for 4 new food centers, and organizations from Västra Götaland will participate in all of them. So if you ask us, our recipe is long-term political commitment, allocating financial means. We mean that cooperation is vital, and we need to build an infrastructure for innovation and development, and to have a farm-to-fork perspective that also include agriculture and fishery. In our region, we have an ambitious climate target. We want to become fossil fuel independent by 2030. This is a challenge which also implies many opportunities. Much has already been done, but to reach our climate target, we need to speed things up and get even more players in Västra Götaland involved. The food sector contributes to global warming, but food production is also threatened by global warming. Food is 1 out of 4 target areas for our regional climate strategy. Primarily, the activities in the food area are addressing farmers, public meal providers, and retailers. And let me stress out that Västra Götaland is Sweden's largest agricultural region. We, together with the municipalities in the region, work intensively with the food issue. We want to reduce food waste. We want to promote good eating habits and ensure that the meal is a fun-filled moment with a healthy approach to food. But we must make it easier for the food production to change and become part of the green transition that is required to be able to achieve our climate goals. I'm not going to be much longer than that. I want to end with stressing how crucial it is to have a strong and unifying local, regional, and international cooperation in order to reach our targets. Therefore, I want to end my presentation by asking this simple question. Would you like to exchange experiences and recipes with us? Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you to you, Ida. And so we move from the north to the Mediterranean. So we are going to see what Catalonia does, and then we can explore how we work together. I mean, which are the main points where we could perhaps look for interactions and for some synergies. Anna Castelví, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks, Arnau. I'm also going to try to share with you my presentation. One moment, please. Yes. Can you see it?
Yes, if you put it in, okay, as a presentation.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Good afternoon to everybody. I'm part of the team of my department who has been working at deliberation of the Catalan Food Strategic Plan that has already been introduced by our Ministry of Agriculture. Thank you to the EEAC and 𝐀𝐫𝐧𝐚 for giving us the opportunity to explain to all of you our plan. We have been working on deliberation of this plan for the last 2 years. The first year internally, and since October 2019, we have done it with the help of all the actors of the Catalan food chain. For us, food lies at the intersection between agriculture, health, environment, and consumers. The way these fields and their stakeholders interact is the way we shape our future. For that reason, we have elaborated this strategic plan for the next 5 years as an interdepartmental and cross-industry or sectorial instrument to build a healthy, resilient, sustainable, safe, and universally accessible food system, which lies the foundation of Catalonia's National Food Agreement. We have designed a plan that has 4 dimensions, 10 strategic objectives, 20 strategic lines, 55 initiatives, 301 actions, which are divided in different kinds of actions depending on the range of the action. But what I would like you to explain you today, because the plan is so huge, it's not possible to explain it in 5 minutes, is how we managed to create it, which were the structure that we have in place that helped us integrate all the public administrations and also all the stakeholders of the food chain to end up with this plan. For that, our department on 2017 created by an official decree the Catalan Food Council, that it's called Consell Català de l'Alimentació in Catalan. This was created as the body of participation, collaboration, reflection, and debate, advice, consultation, and proposal of policies, where all the food chain links were represented. For that, all the public administrations of our government that intervene in the managing of any aspect related to food are represented. One production, promotion, commercialization, consumption, health, food waste, social services, education, industry, and also local administrations. And for the private sector, you could find representatives from the agricultural cooperativism, from the third sector, non-profit organizations, NGOs, consumer organizations, agricultural professional organizations, professional associations related to food, business sector, and in the business sector we have representatives from the agri-food industry, the gastronomy sector, protected designation of origin and protected geographical indications, and food crops. This council also has 4 technical groups. In these 4 members of these 4 technical groups are proposed by the members of the council, but the participation to of these working groups is open to all associations or representatives of organizations of the food sector. In elaborating our strategic plan, we summoned all these working groups of the Catalan Food Council to work in the first stages of the plan. Here you could see our all the methodology we follow to elaborate the plan, and here you could see all the people involved in the plan, all the amount of people on these stages of experts, and the technical diagnosis and the strategic framework. We worked with that working groups of the council that I told you about. And later on the third of the operational framework, we had ad hoc working groups. And we had along all the work 24 people, members of the multidisciplinary group that were high-rank experts on food to validate all the process. When we were doing the first stages of the process, we analyzed the food system for its food chain link, and taking into account 9 axes for the analysis: economic, environmental, and social sustainability. We also had the subject of education and employment in mind, health and nutrition, food safety and quality, territory, gastronomy and culture, communication and awareness, and research and development. Also, during all the elaboration of the plan, we had a participatory process opened to all the people in Catalonia, not only people from the food sector, but also for the consumers, because we wanted to have all the chains of the value chain, all the actors of the food chain, from primary production to consumers, to say what they thought about the future, they want for us. These are the figures of the people who participated in this process. We had two processes, one before summer and the other the second one after summer. Those processes were meant to be alive, seeing each other in live, but at the end they had to be done virtually. And during these debates, the debates that we had with all people who wanted to participate, we received 354 proposals, which were introduced to the final document. Yeah, you have the figures of how many proposals and the ones that were finally included. Most of the proposals we received were aligned with what we were designing. So it was also a way of accompanying us and all who participate in the process with more ideas. Also, while we were working with doing the plan, as I already mentioned, the ministry, we had in mind all the European food strategies, but also from the very beginning, we have in mind that we have to align our plan to the Sustainable Development Goals. And at the end, when we have our final document that was on Monday, was approved by the Council and will be publicly presented on Monday, we did the work of seeing what impact our actions have on the SDGs, on the goals. And we found that all the actions have impact in 15 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Here, I just leave you an infographic that summarizes our plan. If you have interest in knowing more about this, you only have to ask for it or look for information in our website. Next week, I think we will have a version of the plan in English on our web. Thank
Perfect.
you. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Anna, and I apologize to all of you for having such a little time, but we need to continue. Now it's time for questions. I mean, we have seen the perspective from the European Commission and the links between the from farm to fork strategy and with the CAP. Then 𝐀𝐫𝐧𝐚𝐿 showed us the vision of the think tank on the needed transition to the sustainable food systems, and now we have had these 3 visions from the regions, that are members of the assembly, and there are some common points. I mean, the importance of moving towards a sustainable food system, this transversality which is behind the food policy, also the issue of governance, and for instance the issue of the councils, the food council presented by Anna. I think that was also suggested by 𝐁𝐫𝐧𝐚𝐿 in his presentation. Well, now it's time for attendees to make some questions, and if Ricard, Nick, Anna, Irene, or Ida want to share, to comment on something that has been already said by the other speakers, is also you have also the opportunity to comment or to make comments. If not, I have some questions, but I would like to give you the opportunity to react. You know, that everyone is shy, but okay, no problem. I will go for some questions. Let's go for Ricard, but also for me. According to the F2F strategy, the Commission will make a legislative proposal for a framework for a sustainable food system before the end of 2023, if I'm not wrong. And in order to accelerate the transition and to ensure that all food placed on the EU market become increasingly sustainable. 3 years, from our experience, 3 years is not it's not a lot of time for this broad and ambitious proposal. Ricard, how will the Commission work to include all sectoral actors and regions in this process? And Nick, what do you think about this proposal, or the importance of making this legislative proposal for a food system, for a sustainable food system? I give you these 2 questions because when you finish, we are going to have one comment and a question from the audience. But please, Ricard, and then Nick, the floor is yours. Ricard, you are muted, so okay. Gisela, can you? I think that I'm also. Let's see if I can unmute you or not. Whoops. Gisela, could you help me?
Yes. No. Now it's done. Now it's done.
Perfect.
You had to unmute me, and then I had to accept. I had to accept to be unmute. So I think you raised a very important question now. This proposal for the legislative framework for the sustainable food systems, it's the first of the 27 actions that. It's the first in the sense it's the top. It's a kind of a umbrella, kind of an overarching legislative process that we are going to launch. You ask 2 questions, one on the timing, one on the content. On the content, it is still very early, precisely because this is this legislative framework. We as a Commission, we launch the process with the Farm to Fork, but we really want to have a serious analysis and a proper debate with all the stakeholders, and really do a serious and deep reflection. This is why now, in fact, we are in the stage of doing the analysis. In fact, we are working together with the JRC, the Joint Research Center of the Commission, to really get and start first assessing with experts and examining and doing a proper and serious analysis, examining all the different research available, all the different views, and from there we are going to really advance towards this proposal, which we are going to do at the end of the day, it's not so long. At 2023, it's 2 years. I mean, we are already almost 2021, so it's 2 years. So these 2 years, I think it will be important also for players like you, the different regions that participate here, to really participate in this process of this legislative framework for the sustainable food system. Why? I mean, because of course this proposal and this, so let's say this legislative framework, it's not yet defined. In the farm to fork, we mentioned of course some key elements. We want to really tackle the governance. We want to tackle also these synergies between the different parts of the chain. But this is a very complex issue. Let's not forget, we talk about there is a very long and complex set of legislation on food legislation, quite technical in the Commission, quite technical, also linked, of course, to agriculture and to fisheries and to plenty of other policies, which are also quite consolidated and quite established. So, this framework will have plenty of challenges, and we need really everybody to participate in an open way. Precisely, I think this will be to put it, and I think I can be clear. This is more. I think this legislative framework will be really the the longest approach, because it will touch the government. It will touch more the institutional side and the legal aspects of this process. And I'm sure that also Nick will have strong views on that.
Nick,
of course. Thank you. Very briefly, because I will then have to log off. Yeah, it is crucial to have this legislative framework in place, not least so the idea of a farm to fork strategy lasts beyond the current Commission, because we never know what will happen if we have a new Commission coming in with new priorities. This needs to be set in stone. And then last the distance, because the strategies to build sustainable food systems are long-term strategies. Ultimately, some things can be achieved quickly, some things will take longer, and we're talking about big transitions across the food chain. One further point, it will take time, of course, as Ricard mentioned, to get this framework in place, but we don't need to wait until then to start building the different blocks of what will become the EU's farm to fork strategy. And there's the CAP process now, where we can have much better outcomes with a change in direction there. There's the approval of the CAP strategic plans, where the Commission, I think, can really help drive member states towards outcomes that are more aligned with the spirit of the farm to fork strategy. There's the trade policy review the Commission has opened now, and there's a lot that can be done within EU trade policy to start moving towards sustainable food systems and improving the incentives for EU farmers and farmers in the rest of the world to raise their standards. So yeah, that's all I'll be able to say for now, and I'll have to leave you. Thanks very much for the opportunity to participate.
Thank you. And now we have a comment by Irene. Irene.
Yes. Thank you. Just briefly to go back to the AR's position paper. And also what some of the things we saw when we started working on this together. Of course, all of those things that Ricard and Nick has been speaking about is so true, and I'm really looking forward to the recommendations on Friday and what the future CAP will be. But we saw that 20% of the food products in Europe is lost or wasted. 20%. That's a very high. That's very high, and more than 50% of the EU population is overweighted. I'm one of them. So we have, and that is also, of course, for the health system. So that it all works together. And we said that important elements of a strategy would be that we have to realize that trust and inclusive government is essential. Regulation that allow introduction of new foods into the European system is also very, very important. Long-term health programs, standardized methodology for collecting and reporting data into the Europe. We improve the transparency of food labels, allow distance as a prerequisite in public procurement, enhance innovation capacity, recognize food and agriculture as a tool for increased occupation, and facilitate sustainable food consumption. All of those things we will work together with in the EU, and the regions are said that we can work with this. So just a comment. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And now we go, thank you, Irene. And we go to another question that this comes from Marce Boy, he says, well, thank you for this very interesting webinar. Thank you, Marce. And presentations. It seems that governance is key to achieve sustainable food systems, and that regions play a crucial role to activate this vision and involve actors from the quadruple helix. Question to regions. What would be your recommendations to other regions to implement such fruitful processes, such the Catalan Food Strategic Plan or others? So, Irene, Aida, Anna, what you could recommend to Marcel?
Well, from my part, I already started explaining how we did it, and the way we started doing creating this council that has all the food chain actors represented was a crucial moment to afterwards this council starting asking for the strategy to be done. For us, that was an important starting point. To if you want a clue of how to do it, I will start for that. A place where you can gather all the actors, because food is a huge area and it involves a lot of subjects. And so for me, it would be a good start.
Okay. And the other, Irene?
Yes, we are funding now something we call Agro Örebro, and they have we given them the job to be out and meet everyone that needs to be part of this work. So we put funding into that, and the strategic document that we have been working in our region is theirs to work with now.
Okay. Aida, do you want to say something to reply?
Well, I also point out our recipe. It is political agreement, so that you know that everyone knows that the game plan is the same, no matter what political sorry, yes, I will start my video. No matter which political party that is in charge, and so that you have a common political sense in the issue. That's very important. As a region, we can create platforms and contribute to collaboration, and that is one of our main success stories. I think it's very important to be able to cooperate over from the region and the companies and the academy and the universities, etc. Okay,
perfect. So now Ricard would like to make a comment on the question of poverty, the question that was raised by Fernando Fuster Fabra.
Yes, indeed. I think this is a very good point, which had not appeared yet in the discussion, the social dimension of these strategies. And I think it's very good. I thank Fernando Fuster Fabra to mention that, because we are all talking here, all very happy, talking about being more sustainable, but there are risks. And I think it's important that we are aware about the risks. Just to put an example, some weeks ago, the American government, the American Ministry of Agriculture, published a kind of analysis on the implications of the farm to fork, and the Americans they consider that it will increase the food prices in a quite substantial way in the world, and it will have. And the Americans think that over the strategy will generate and can generate food shortages. So and there are some views around, and there are some analysts, some scientifics who are and some sectors who are quite critical on the potential impacts of our strategy on food prices, which could increase, and also generating food shortages. And I think it's important that we are aware about this. Linked to that, I would like to say that the Commission is having several studies which are not yet published, but will be published soon, in order to provide more information and assessment on the implications of this strategy on food security. And I think it's important because, I mean, food security, I mean, cannot be given as assured, and precisely we need all to make the efforts to really use properly the technological advance and the different possibilities that the technology, the science will allow us to really be more sustainable, pollute less, but at the same time keep our productivity and guarantee our food security. So this is something which I would like to stress, because it's also a commitment from our side. It's a duty to guarantee that food security is guaranteed. Of course, as I said before, from the moment that we have 20% of food waste, it means that there is a scope, really, there is a scope to be more sustainable while guaranteeing this food security. But then a very final point, Mr. Fuster Fabra mentioned the implications on the COVID and the particular economic crisis now, which is having a very strong negative impact also on certain groups of the society. And again, the linkage between food security and income will be, and it is, again, very strong in the political agenda. Some people think, and some analysts and some interpretations from the overall dynamic of this sustainability strategy consider that the only way really to make square the circle is that the final price to the consumer to be higher, because if the producer, if the farmer cannot use certain things, if the farmer has higher production costs and resources are limited, so people assume that at the end, okay, it will be the consumer who will pay more. And indeed, in some cases, in some products, in some situations, it is like that. Organic farming is higher in general. The people pay more for organic farming or for quality products than for the conventional ones. However, this has a strong implications at social level, and from the Commission we are committed also to really carefully control these social implications. This is why in the Farm to Fork there are also some important warnings about the social effects, and even have a full check of many elements, like even the social conditions of the farmer, the workers in the agricultural sector, and plenty of elements linked to this societal dimension, which is fundamental also if we think in a comprehensive way on the Sustainable Development Goals.
Perfect. Thank you, Ricard. I have a problem. I like this discussion. We have a lot of questions, but time is so limited that some of our speakers need to leave for our meetings, etc. So I apologize, but I must say thanks to all the speakers, the panelists, Ricard, Irene, Aida, and Anna, and I will give the floor immediately to Albert Castellanos, that will conclude the session with some interesting points and recommendations. Thank you again. Albert, the floor is yours. You are muted, but now it's fantastic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so thank you very much. First of all, thanks to all the experts and representatives from the regions that share your time and your knowledge with us. Thanks, Ricard, Nick, I think I already left, but thanks anyway. Irene, Aida, and Anna for your contributions. It was a very interesting debate. And I think that we have a lot of work to do. We already had a lot of work to do, but now we are aware that we have a lot of work to do from now on. Thanks to Arnau Caral, honestly, because it's really the soul of these webinars on European Green Deal. So thank you very much for your involvement and coordination of the session, and also thanks to the AR Secretariat, particularly to Gisela, for all this work making possible this debate. Well, a quick summary or quick concluding remarks are very risky because you are losing many interesting things that you have said along the session. But at the end, I'm sure that you will apologize me if I'm not saying many things that have been relevant in this debate. In order to be short, because I think many of you have other things to do, so we are in a hurry. I would like to focus on one of the characteristics that we mentioned at the beginning, and I think most of you you spoke about it, which is the fact that when we are speaking about the Farm to Fork strategy, we are speaking about a transformative vision. What does it mean? It means that basically a transformative agenda, as Nick said, it doesn't allow business as usual. Business as usual is not an option. So we have the duty, we have the challenge to change many inertias that we have in our regions, in our cities, in our public administrations that we need to face. And we need to face boldly. Otherwise, we are not going to meet most of the commitments that Farm to Fork strategy is fixing to us. How are we going to manage to get these challenges or to overcome these difficulties in order to overcome this inertia that we have from the past years? Basically, I would like to mention two concepts that to me are particularly relevant for the success of the Farm to Fork communication. First of all, is a thing that Nick said, and I think Ricard also mentioned, which is the truly coherence of the European Union policies. This is basic. I think that without coherent policies fostering and helping the implementation of the Farm to Fork strategy, is almost impossible to meet the objectives that the communication mentions. Just to mention some of the things that you already said, and some of the things that you haven't said, but I think that are important anyway. The expenditure policy. I mean, the expenditure policy of the European Union have to be current with the commitments that we are pursuing with the Farm to Fork strategy. Does it mean that the common agricultural policy, as you mentioned before, has to be aligned with the objective of the Farm to Fork strategy, and as you said before, that will depend mainly on the trialogue that will take place next spring. This is fundamental. If the common agricultural policy is not current with the objectives that we're pursuing in this Farm to Fork strategy, we will be losing our time. Expenditure policy, but investment policy as well. I mean, in order to change these inertias, we need an ambitious research and development and innovation policy. You mentioned some examples that you are developing from the regions, but we need a strong R&D policy in order to change what we are used to do in the last 10, 20 years. I think we have a huge opportunity with the next generation, and take into account that the next generation is tightly linked with the European Green Deal. I'm sure that we'll have the resources to develop this ambitious R&D agenda. Expenditure policy, investment policy, and European Union trade policy as well. Ricard mentioned that. I mean, it's the first time, or one of the first times, that the European Union is thinking globally, in the sense that it's not only thinking on the European regions and European members have to do or want to do together, but is pursuing as well to change or to be aware that the change that we are going to develop in Europe will take place or will have consequences on third countries as well. That is hugely important because it means that at the end, the European Union is aware that if the trade policy is developing with other countries, with third countries, and if this policy is not current with objectives of Farm to Fork strategy, we'll be losing our time as well. And at the end, the European Union tax policy. This is a field that politically haven't been developed in the last years, but European Green Deal is focusing as well. and without a tax policy, in some sense, giving some incentives to the policies that are generating positive externalities, most of the changes won't be possible anyway. So these, to me, are the four legs of the chair of the coherence of the European Union policies that have to be developed in order to implement and to meet the challenges that we're facing with the farm to fork strategy. And second and last, now we are about to finish. We do not only need coherence with consistency with European Union policies, but also we need passion, we need an engine to foster and to boost this change. And this passion and this energy to transform the European food policy, and at the end, the European economy and society is in the regions. And we have seen that today. We have seen only 3 examples from our region, from Basque-Gotland and from Catalonia, but I'm sure that there are plenty of examples of regions committed to change, committed with this agenda, that I'm sure that will help much more than most of the European states in order to meet these requirements. Probably what I'm saying now is a little bit inconvenient, because I shouldn't say that the European states are not committed to these policies, but I'm absolutely sure that the regions will be much more transformative than the states will be in the following years. So without this activism and without this energy focused on the transformative agenda that we are facing with the farm to fork communication, we're not going to get our objectives. So just thank you for all the contributions. Thank you for Arnau. Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, you wanted to say something about the IEEP consultation.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. I almost forgot. There's also a thing that I wanted to share with you. As you know, this is the second webinar on the European Green Deal, and I would like to end these concluding remarks informing you that the Institute for European Environmental Policy has just launched, together with AER and the EEAC network and other partners, an online consultation to identify the gaps and opportunities of the successful implementation of the EU Green Deal. I think this information is very valuable because it's focused precisely in what I was saying right now. I mean, which could be the key points in order to guarantee the success of the European Green Deals and meet the objectives that we are committed to. So I will kindly ask you to participate in this survey, because at the end we'll be helping in a much more successful implementation of the European Green Deal agenda. Thank you very much for your attendance, for your contributions, and not only the contributions you are making today, but the contribution that make the implementation of the European Green Deal agenda possible in the following years. Thank you very much.